Assalamu Alaikum everyone, I'm Ahmed and welcome back. So in this tutorial we're gonna learn about Python functions. Now what Python functions are? Python functions are block of codes which can only be run when it is being called. So when you create a Python function, it won't run automatically. You would have to call it in another line or a previous line. So I'm gonna open my editor. Here I have my main.py. And first of all, I want to create a function that would print your name out, your, your name out. So I'm just gonna say def and then the name of your function. Def stands for define and then you have the name of your function. So here I'm gonna say for high and for high and I'm gonna take a parameter. Now here we have different parameters. You can take whatever you want. For now I'm gonna take name. So name has become a parameter, colon and enter. Now what I want to do is print hi. So what is happening here is whenever we call this function say hi, we would have to provide a argument argument of name. This is a parameter. We have to give a argument inside of this, which can be any kind of a name. Then when Python runs this function, it automatically generates this print method and runs the line of code for us. So now, just for a quick demo, let me run this code. And you see we get nothing. Why? Because we didn't call this method. So to call this method, we just have to say underscore hi and provide our name, which is our argument. So I'm gonna provide Ahmed, run my code, and I get hi Ahmed. I can choose whatever I want. I get hi Tim. So likely you can play around with functions just like this. Uh, Now I'm gonna talk about returning functions. So returning functions are basically functions that when you provide arguments or call a function, it would no it would process everything. It would run the Python code, but it will only execute the return statement, the objects that are in the return statement, and I'll just show you in a moment. So I'm gonna say just change this function add. Now I want to add x. You can say whatever you want. X, add x. So I'm gonna let's say x num sum equals to x plus 1. Okay, sum is equal to x plus 1. Return sum. So here I have added a parameter which is again the argument. I have created a variable inside of the function. Python automatically does it, but it's not global. It's not global. Sum equals to x plus 1 means whatever argument we provide the function, it will be added to 1 and the function will automatically return sum. But what if I remove this line of code? Now the function won't return anything. It won't return anything at all. Meaning it won't print out or say anything in return. So I'm gonna return 9, and let's call this function at, and I'm gonna provide a number, example 10. Run my code, and I get nothing because I didn't put it in a print function. I always have to do that when you. So I run my code, and I get 11. So here we successfully returned the sum that we wanted to add. We can have any other number such as 15, and we get 16. So these are basically functions. You can say the basic types of functions. You can add more than one uh, parameters, but you would have to give those arguments to. Uh, just let me show you an example of x, y, and n. I'm just gonna do type in x plus y plus. So what this will do is add x, y, and n, which would be our parameters over here. So our x is 15, y is 6, and n is 3. So 15 plus 6, 21, 21 plus 3, 24, and we get 24. So this is simply how functions work. If you just want to print something out inside of a function, you just use the print function, print statement. But usually we use the return statement, which processes all our code along with displays, along with throws out something we want the function to throw. Even you can't have any, you can say, parameters if you like, if you want to process something advanced or something simple. So these are functions. 7 minutes. So let's take some more examples. Functions. I think we still have time, so I'm gonna teach you about Python classes. Now, in this tutorial, we're gonna learn a little bit about classes, but in the next tutorial, we'll be learning inheritance of classes and as well as objects. So, in Python, classes are similar to objects. Objects and classes are the same. The difference is that objects are created using a class, and a class is created just by itself, just like functions, classes. So I'm gonna create a class written as like this, a class, and then I'm gonna name it something. So for now I'm gonna say my underscore data, my underscore data. We don't have to use any parentheses. It's only gonna be useful when we're going to inherit a class from a class. So you'll get that in maybe in the next tutorial if we have time. My data, and we can add whatever function we want here. But if you want to make your class a function itself, if you want to make your class a function itself, then you would have to use a different kind of function known as underscore underscore init underscore underscore brackets, and see how nicely PyCharm automatically autofills our self over here. Now what is self? Self is an object is a class global object, means it's only accessible inside the class. You can assign variables to this self object. You can assign, you can change those variables, you can play around with them, and so it is used to take in data and process them with along with other methods that might be here. So define underscore underscore init underscore underscore parenthesis self colon, and now we can make our class a function, but this would become a complete object. So I'm gonna just say self dot name. I'm gonna put a variable inside of self so that it can be global. I can access it with along with many other, you can say, many other methods or functions I will create later. I'm gonna use some parameters, arguments, name, age, hobby, hobby, name, age, hobby. So self dot name equals to name. We can leave hobby for right now. I'm just gonna show you the functions that we use inside of classes. Self dot name equals to name. Self dot age equals to. So here is our last function, the init function. We have set two variables inside of self, and we use dot to assign them, and we assign them with the name parameter and the age parameter. So for now I'm just gonna call this method class, and we don't call classes just like functions like my underscore data. This is a bad code. This is a complete bad code. What we do is create variables and call our classes inside of them just like objects, and this is an object. This is an object. So I'm just gonna say, let me say data equals to my underscore data parenthesis, and now when we created this init function, the class already inherited, or you can say it already made this its uh, function like a function itself. For example, I just name here Ahmed and age 90. So here I have my arguments, and you can see these are similar to what we had done here. So this is just how classes work, the init function work, and this is a object. Now let me show you one more thing. String equals to str. This is a object. You might not have known about this, but str means for string, and this is where we can write our code. This is an object. Even this is an object because this is a string. It's a string method. Let's leave that out. So this is an object, a method, class method. So now I can access whatever I want in my class. I can't print out my data because it's not returning anything or it's not doing anything. Now what if I want to process something with the help of this data? Now I can create many other functions, as I'm just gonna define set age. Define set age. It's gonna take in self. It's always default. You have to take self. If you don't take self, it will provide you an error. Some small errors in Python. Set age self dot age equals to uh, now I need to use it, plus equals to 1. So I'm just gonna call out, but I need to have another function, define print uh, print underscore data, print. With the help of this, we are gonna print our information or data wherever we have inserted inside. Print uh, uh, okay. Your name is self dot name. This is how we can access the global variables inside of classes. Self dot name plus you or plus self dot age you or dash the years. So then how can we access these methods, these functions inside outside of our class? So here I have created my object. Now just like string objects, we could use methods inside of string object. So for here I can use data dot print underscore data. Then my code. uh, oh, oh yeah, I always forget that. We have to convert the self.h into a string, because this whole bunch of code is a string and integer can't be converted to string by Python itself. So your name is Ahmed, you are 19 years old. Our class was successfully created. We can play around with anything. I hope this might be not confusing for you, but this is how classes work. Mm, can also set the age. Now let me print my data two times. Now you would see I can print data that age. You are still 19 years old because we had provided 19. But what if now we print our code? First we were 19, now we are 20. Interesting. We can add whatever method we want. We can do play around with it. We can add more parameters, arguments if we want. We can add more functions, more objects. Means classes is really powerful and helpful in for Python developers. It's really amazing. Even if you're working with functions itself, not classes, going to be a headache. You would need to access other functions along with that function, just like creating an object. So if you get along with objects and classes, you will get along with Python very easily and very quickly. This is because classes are just, you can say, powerful. They're amazing, great. They don't have you don't have to learn much about them. They're just in Python. So here's our code. We have done everything. So this is the end of the tutorial. Meet you guys in the next.